was as a sophomore or junior in college. I was a discus thrower, shot putter, and I threw an NC2A indoor qualifying distance. I threw over 62 feet on my third throw ever. It's stupid, but so it's been a really good event for me. I also was fortunate enough to have a coach that didn't believe in the weight, and so we just threw it like a hammer. We trained with it like a hammer. We never really, when I say that, we never really trained it. It was a short heavy ball for in our training system. And I was listening to Judd yesterday up here when he was talking about how the weight's important to him as a college coach because it's points. And that's true, and I think that's really kind of maybe the only reason that we threw it. The only reason that Stuart allowed me to kind of go to the meets was because I was a poor struggling hammer thrower, and I could actually make $1,000 here and there doing it. And so he caved and let me go to nationals the first year. And what we found was, if you train it like the hammer, you can actually get some really good training benefits. It's closer to your body. The feedback is a lot more immediate than the hammer. The hammer's way out there and it's kind of floppy and it's kind of a long distance relationship. The weight's right here. And so if you want to learn how to wind flat, well, just wind flat. It's easy, right? Easier with the weight. Okay, it's a little heavier, but that helps too because then you get a little bit of strength in the wind for the hammer. In the turns, it's again, there's not as much floppy dynamics as in the hammer. It's a little bit more like the weight. One of my training partners, Jim Driscoll, used to say that the only reason I was good at the weight is because I was really just a discus thrower. And Judd will attest to whenever we did clinics, there was what do you call it, like a pool, It's like, when is Stuart going to call Lance a discus thrower for the first time? And this is after, I've been to a couple of Olympics and stuff, and he'd still bring out you're just a discus thrower, Luddy. And he'd do it for a little bit of an effect, I think, with the group, but it was true. I was really fortunate to be able to throw the shot. I was a shot putter first in high school. Boy, I wanted to be a shot putter. 6'2" and weighed 220 pounds, and I was really quick, and I was a glider. And then I got to college, and like many of you know, there's coaches that get these really quick little guys, and they get to the 16, and it's like punching a wall every time they throw a 16-pound shot. And that was me. I blew up my hand, blew up my knee. Luckily, I was really in my heart a discus thrower, and I got to do that a whole bunch, and I got pretty good at that. And in doing that, I got a little bit of movement history that allowed me to use the weight as kind of an intermediate event to learn the hammer. With that said, that's how we did it. We never did more than, with the exception of '94, when I threw the record at 84.10, we never threw more than 30 throws in the weight in a week. So we had a very, very simple training structure. All of my receiving coaching as a hammer thrower was very technical. Stuart was a very technical coach. My college coach was a very technical coach. His name is Mike Carrigan. Never recruits out of Montana and has 60-foot shot putters all day long, all year long, every year. He coached me from being a 186-foot lightning bolt discus thrower to 202 feet my senior year as a left-hander into the Hayward Field right-handed wind. If any of you have been there, and I never really paid attention to it. I knew, of course, that I was at a little bit of disadvantage there. But Casey, I was talking to Casey Malone this spring. This is me feeding my ego, by the way, as a discus thrower. Casey said, "Oh yeah, 202 there, 61 meters there. That's 65 meters, easy, anywhere else." So I did okay in the discus, and but it was all in a technical bent. So I'm glad that there's a lot of people that talk about weight training and periodization, all that stuff. Our throws pattern was, we took 20 throws on Sunday with light balls. So at the start of my career, it was 12s and 14s when we were young throwers. We had a group of young throwers. On Monday, we threw 45 throws, 14, 16, 18. On Tuesday, we threw, and here's the point of all that rambling. On Tuesday, we threw 15 weight throws and 15 long heavies, either a meter long 20 or a full length 18. As we matured and I got a little bit older, we threw a long 20, but never more than 15 weight throws. The only exception to that was a 94. We decided, you know what, let's light this thing up and see what happens, and we threw 20 throws in the weight twice a week. So the weight is was for us very definitely a training implement, and luckily I just was really, really good at it naturally. It fits my nervous system because I was a pretty quick thrower. The weight, physics-wise, is lighter than the hammer. It's not a heavy. This is an important thing for young throwers to learn, and you just have to believe it. And if you can, yeah, it's hard to wind. It's heavy when you start, but as far as centripetal force and kind of radial momentum and all that sort of stuff, because it's so short, the physics works out that it's lighter than a hammer. So I had one training partner that threw over 70, I think he threw 73, Mike Fritchman, way back in the dark ages, when 70 was a really good throw. He would train the weight and a 4K. It's a light bulb. So if you think of it like that, that helps. That helps your mentality, it helps your training, okay? It helps think about, yeah, you can actually throw this with technique. You can actually feel a pendulum. You can actually move around the wind a little bit. Again, winding's the hardest part because it does weigh 35 or 20 pounds, or 25 pounds if you're high school board. And so, you know, to get it and to yard it around here by hand, yeah, you got to get some shoulder strength, but there's some strength training, right? That's a good thing to do. Get your wind stronger. I did a walk around in 2 turns, my first competition ever at Dartmouth Relays in, I don't know when, the dark ages. And I threw 75 feet. I did 1 wind, 3 turns, 1 wind, 4 turns. I casted in 3 turns, cast in 4 turns. And ultimately, because, okay guys, yeah, it is a hammer. I did 2 winds and 4 turns for the record. And it's an interesting deal doing that. You want to make it simple. I think mentally I always, you know, it's the winter and you're lifting heavy and it's this stupid short thing and you're indoors and throwing all over in the dirt and sometimes you're throwing outdoors and so you just want it to be simple. But at the end of the day, if you can throw it like a hammer, if you can get your athletes to throw it like a hammer, initially it's going to be harder. And if I forget, somebody asked me about 3 turns or 2 or 3 or 4 turns later, and developing, working into that. But if you start now with your editor, okay, if you got a senior that's going to win nationals with 2 turns, maybe not change him now, But if you've got a freshman that's a good thrower, and they're gonna be a good hammer thrower, and they're an okay weight thrower, get them throwing the weight like a hammer. It's only gonna help their hammer. It's not, well, it might hurt their weight initially a little bit. It's a little bit hard to learn, just like the hammer's a little bit hard to learn, right? But get them to start thinking of the weight like a hammer. And however you're gonna throw the hammer, that's how you throw the weight, okay? And everybody's got their own ideas and opinions on how to throw the hammer, and we won't get into that other than to compare some things in the weight. So that's my advice as a coach, and this is coming from a guy that there's Kent Ramona, who had the pleasure of coaching Brittany Henry after Kent Ramona. And if you don't know Brittany Henry, she's 5'8", weighs about $152, and she's like a little hummingbird. She cannot. Can't have you heard? Joe in here? She weighs like 162 pounds.
Yeah, she told me 163.
Yeah, yeah. She's massive. She's down in San Diego training with Art Venegas. Anyway, great hammer thrower. Fastest woman in throws, bar none. And she threw the weight 68 feet. The thing weighs like a quarter of her body weight. And she threw the thing 68 feet. And so, but it took 3 years to get there. Really hard, dedicated work. Yeah, we could have gripped and ripped at 67 right off, but it was worth it. It was worth having her at national. She made nationals by 6 inches, and that was worth it. And she wouldn't have done it any other way. So I guess maybe if you had a guy like what was his name, Corey, big shot putter, hammer thrower, Corey Martin. Maybe you don't want to, mess with the formula too much. But if you've got a normal everyday athlete like I was, maybe think about throwing it like a hammer. Have I pounded that message home enough? Okay. So the only difference is it's hard to compete walking around in a hammer. You can walk around and throw the weight. It's impossible to cast in a hammer. Everybody know what I'm talking about? Walk around, cast in, wind? Okay. So now we get into the weight. Now I'm warmed up. Ready? Oh, is everybody awake now? I am. So that coffee finally kicked in. So casting is very, very simply some version of just bring it back here, and I'm left-handed, so I'm a mirror image, right, if you're not used to it. So bring it here, and just turn it in like that and start turning. That's a casting. I saw a couple different versions yesterday. Jordan from Ashland stands here real static and does it. Okay, somebody else, I think maybe I just told somebody to, I'm going to turn around and throw that way, if it's okay for now. So I'm throwing that way, the back of the ring. So Brittany would get here and start here. So you're facing the throw, right? And you turn it from there, okay? A walk around. It's a drill we did yesterday if you didn't see it. And you just start walking with the ball. I won't get into a lot of the details. If you were there yesterday, you learned about the 6-step or the 4-step. But basically, it's just to get the ball going in a circle without messing everything else up. Okay? Still, I'm throwing that way, right? You walk around, you step in the direction of the throw. This is the start of the throw. Okay, start of the throw isn't at 0. Start of the throw is here. Throwing that way. Okay? Then you do the first turn, and then, okay? So you walk around, and then you start turning, and there's your throw. Okay, that's a walk around start. It's a drill, but again, it's indoors, you're teaching the hammer, it's a training implement, it's okay to do a drill. The other way to do it is just a regular wind like a hammer. So, do one wind, two winds. We did a lot of one wind. I saw a lot of one wind yesterday. I think that's a good thing because This is where the weight's gonna knock you off. If you're winding it, because it's shorter and because it's heavy, you're gonna wanna, your athletes are gonna go boom, right? And now I'm throwing this way again. So at zero at the bottom, it really wants to pull you over hard. And that's what you have to resist. That's, if there is a really definite difference between the weight and the hammer, it's just that. It's what happens at zero at the start of the throw, in the entry. The weight just wants to bury you, okay? So you just physically resist it. It's a stupid event, it's a stupid ball, and you just gotta be brute force and ignorance, hold it up, and hold it up, and not let it drop down. You don't let it go there. You're smarter than the hammer, right? It's like, well, it wants me to go there. Okay, well, you know, I can't think of a great smart-ass analogy. And the way you do that is you hold it. You hold it with your hands, okay? This is a pull, guys, right? This is pulling up. We don't use our shoulders in the hammer, which is weird because all hammer throwers have these gigantic traps. But we don't, right? We're here. This is a lift. This is a push. Okay? This is a pull. This is a push. Okay? This is a hold. So hold the handle. Hold the ball up with your hands. Wind the ball with your hands. You don't wind with your shoulder. You don't wind with your back. You wind with your hands. You wind the ball over your head. You don't like snatch underneath it, get your head out of the way. Why are you letting that, you're in a bar fight, right? And somebody wants to hit you in the head, you're not gonna go, okay. No, hold here, right? You hold solid. You don't let this thing tell you what to do. So you lift it over your head. No, I want you to go around my head. I'm not gonna move around you. This isn't, what's that martial art where you use the force against yourself, right? It's not, what is it?
Keto.
Yeah, this is not keto, this is strong. Now I'll completely contradict myself if I keep going about that one. But the point is, stand in the middle. You have to develop your center, okay? Because this is a light ball, keep in mind that the weight is a light ball. Because it's a light ball, the hardest thing to do with a light ball is hold the center when you're going fast, right? It's easy to throw a heavy ball. Just big, long 18 or 20. It's easy, everything's really slow. You can feel everything, you can make adjustments. You start throwing a 4K, if you're not in the middle, it's like you ever seen a tread come off a tire and they're going 60 miles an hour? Everything's fine, everything's fine. First there's a little wobble and it blows up, right? That's what happened in the 4K. If you go off a little bit, it's like, yeah, I got this. You slow down, you throw it that way. It's the same with the weight. The weight's a light ball. So you have to make, good thing is it's really easy to do because it's right there. Right, the ball's right in front of you. It's not clear out there doing some weird thing, dynamic pendulum, blah, blah, blah. It's just right here, okay? So wind it around your head. Stay straight. Hold it here. Hold it up with your hands and guide it flat. Okay, if there's a specific technical cue in the weight that's any different than you coach the hammer, it's that. Hold it up with your hands and guide it flat at the start. Somebody asked me, is she here today? I don't see her. Can you be too flat? The answer is no. I don't think so. There's maybe somebody that the natural dynamic of the hammer, that's how you get the orbit. If you sit back at zero and you stay long at 180 or whatever your version of that is, it's gonna gain altitude. Okay? The weight will very definitely gain altitude. And then that's a balance of the horizontal motion is the power. right? The vertical is the rhythm, the pendulum. I'm not going to talk a lot about the pendulum today, but if you don't know what the pendulum is, if you do a little research or ask, ask later, whatever, or ask Judd, that's the rhythm part of the throw, okay? But there's no power here into a throw, right? But it sets the rhythm. So then it's just a balance of how flat, how steep. If you go too steep, there's power. You also, especially the weight wants you to throw you forward. If you're too steep, it wants to bury you at zero, like that first line, okay? So you can go flat and you'll get enough height, especially in the way you can accelerate to almost anybody can accelerate to full speed in 2 turns, in 2 hits, right? So last turn and finish, or second turn, third turn, hold on for the finish. Somewhere along there, you can hit full speed in 2 turns. So don't try to kill it at the start, right? Keep it flat, keep it long. So you set up, so the other thing that lets you do, this flat entry, is it lets you set up the range, lets you set up the radius, okay? Because it's easy, because it's mechanical, you can really, I heard somebody